Good morning. An announcement for the winners, a reiteration of what we spoke about just a while ago. So the winners of Idecs for 4G will be announced first, followed by Open Challenge and then by Disc 4. Idecs for 4G winners, as I read out your name, please start walking towards the dais, but the 5 winners from Army, I request them to gather around the left side of the dais, down the dais, and the winners from Navy and Air Force to come to the right. And once I complete the list, I will invite you on stage, and then we will have a group photo with the chief guest. And we will follow the similar procedure for winners of Open Challenge as well. There are 9 winners, and I believe there could be any number of people because some of you have 2 people, that 2 persons representing the company. That's perfectly okay. Just try to make sure that you're able to balance it out between the left and the right side, right? I'm sure you can pull that out given you are aspiring to build tech for defense. And then for Disc 4 winners, we have 15 winners. And here again, there could be any number of people. Now, maybe we will have to break this into 2 groups. But that's something I'll decide on the fly once I know the number of people that are gathering. And then we will have 2 sets. Or we may just end up going with 1 batch as a whole. So this part alone, we may have to play it a little flexibly. And the felicitation for Disc 4 will be at the very last portion of the event, the segment of the event. And so we have time to sort of figure that out. All the best. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Honorable Raksha Mantri at the venue. He is looking at the stalls and walking through, discussing with the innovators. May I request each one of you to take your seats now? And it'll be good if you can keep your cell phones in silent mode. I would appreciate if we can limit movements in or out the venue. We should be starting very soon, maybe 7 to 10 minutes from now. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I request you to kindly take your seats as we're about to commence the Startup Manthan at Aero India 2021. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and namaskara. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to one and all to the Startup Manthan at Aero India 2021, the runway to 1 billion opportunities. Startup Manthan is the flagship event organized under the Idec's banner and is brought to you by the Defense Innovation Organization, or DIO, established under the aegis of the Department of Defense Production, Ministry of Defense, Government of India. Launched by the Prime Minister in Def Expo 2018, Idec operates with the singular objective of enabling India's defense sector to harness the power of startups, to innovate technologies, and deliver products at unmatched speed, ingenuity, and cost. I am Vish Sahasranamam, co-founder and CEO of Forge, and I've personally had the privilege to be associated with Idec since its very founding. And my incubator is supporting DIO as its knowledge and capabilities partner. I will be your host for this edition of Startup Manthan. It is my honor to welcome to this prestigious event the dignitaries on stage. Honorable Defense Minister Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, Chief of Defense Staff General Bipin Rawat, Defense Secretary Dr. Ajay Kumar, Secretary Department of Defense Production Shri Raj Kumar, Deputy Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Shantanu Dayal, Additional Secretary, Department of Defense Production, Shri Sanjay Jaju, CEO of Idec of DIO, and the man, the mission, and the mind behind Startup Manthan, Joint Secretary, Department of Defense Production, Shri Anurag Bajpai, Additional CEO of DIO. Welcome to the dignitaries. In this edition of Startup Manthan, we are putting the spotlight on the winning innovators of 3 major initiatives under Idec. Firstly, the Idec for 4G program that enables in-service military personnel to productize innovative technologies and solutions for wider application within defense services. Secondly, the Idec Open Challenge program that allows innovators and startups to propose technologies and solutions that get validated for necessity within the tri-services. Thirdly, the winners of the 4th edition of Defense India Startup Challenge, or DISC 4. We also today have a lineup of speakers from around the world representing various stakeholder organizations and entities from the global defense ecosystem. This program is being broadcast live on the internet, and I welcome those hundreds of viewers who have logged in now. I would now like to invite Secretary of Defense Production, Shri Raj Kumar, for his welcome address and opening remarks.
Very warm and bright good morning. Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, Chief of Defense Staff, General Bipin Rawat, Defense Secretary, Dr. Ajay Kumar, Vice Chief of Army Staff, Sanjay Jaju, Additional Secretary, dignitaries present here and virtually all across the globe. Thank you so much. Startup Manthan 2021 is being organized as part of Aero India 2021 And as you know, this is a dedicated event to showcase innovations and technology developments in the defense sector by our MSMEs, by our private sector, by our innovators. At the outset, I am extremely delighted with the presence of so many startups and innovators, their potential mentors from our armed forces, whose involvement right from the stage of filtering of the ideas, the proposals, mentoring of the startups, and finally bringing them to the level of prototypes, trial and testing is immense. I congratulate you all. I am grateful to you for having accepted our invite to celebrate the winners of IDEX for 4G. This is the new addition to our challenges. As a matter of fact, earlier it was only the ideas by way of challenges coming from the services. The participants were from the other side of the fence. Now the ideas are being groomed from the ground. That means the soldiers, the men who are on the ground, whether in the sea or air or on land, they are now contributing to the ideas, and now those ideas will become challenge for future innovative activities. Your presence in such large numbers shows your zeal and confidence in this initiative, and it has reaffirmed our faith in the direction that Defense Innovation Organization is now moving in. Over the last 2.5 years, IDEX has emerged as a platform for providing ample opportunities to all the stakeholders working in the field of defense manufacturing to interact with our armed forces. Earlier, our ethos was not so much to interact with the innovators or with the industry directly, but this IDEX platform has provided an opportunity for the services to interact with our people, with our startups, with our innovators, so that they can better understand the concerns and challenges being faced by them, that means the armed forces, and come up with solutions which would revolutionize the warfare technology of future. As our nation is gifted with the best brains, innovative skills, and above all, a strong desire to contribute to benefit our armed forces, I am confident that the startups and young entrepreneurs would emerge as future defense suppliers for the nation and hopefully exporters. And that will bring so much of pride to our country. The Defense Ministry and the Department of Defense Production has taken numerous measures in the recent past to promote the startup culture and self-reliance in defense. In particular, IDEX has been designed with our serious intent to infuse latest technology into our military warfare, closely intertwined with the need of services and reduce dependence on imports. So IDEX is going to play a major part in avoiding imports in future. Due care has been taken to refine and streamline the IDEX process to eliminate all possible bottlenecks to develop a robust ecosystem of defense startups to support in-house defense manufacturing. In our endeavor towards the same, IDEX framework allows startups to retain their IPR. This is very important. As the innovators work with us, they are absolute surety of their intellectual property being retained with them, and that's very important. And it permits individual innovators, researchers, and MSMEs to apply under the IDEX scheme because of this assurance and seek support from Defense Innovation Organization in the form of grants. We provide a maximum of 1.5 crore, which is up to 50% of the total project cost as grant from Defense Innovation Organization. We have also incorporated various clauses in the defense acquisition procedure. This is a new development. The winners of IDEX challenges, because their prototype has been meeting the expectation of the challenge, meeting the needs of our services. So how will it be integrated in the procurement process? So that provision has now been introduced. This will facilitate the process of procurement. That means the innovators will also have the opportunity now to become successful entrepreneurs. The interest shown by our young innovators as well as private industry, corporates to play an active role in transformation of defense manufacturing through indigenization and innovation is a testimony to our constant endeavor to innovate, improvise, and excel. On this occasion, I would like to thank all the innovators who have come up with their ideas to support IDEX in its efforts to develop a robust startup ecosystem and provide valuable contribution in modernizing our armed forces. Thank you for joining us today in this Startup Manthan. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Sri Rajkumar, for your address. I do have to point out that the path to procurement is indeed a masterstroke. IDEX is the brainchild of Dr. Ajay Kumar, Defense Secretary. And sir, it is my privilege to invite you to address the gathering.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, Chief of Defense Staff, General Bipin Rawat, Secretary Defense Production, Shri Rajkumar, Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Shantanu Dayal, Additional Secretary, Department of Defense Production, Shri Sanjay Jaju, representatives from Ministry of Defense, Armed Forces, and dear friends from the startup community. It gives me tremendous pleasure to be here with you. A seed was sown in April 2018 in Def Expo, and slowly the seed grew into a sapling. And today, when one was seeing some of your products outside, once we had such tremendous feeling of pride to see that in a short time, I was told the see-through armor took about 8 to 10 months to make, and paltry sums never exceeding 1.5 crores. Such wonderful innovations have been made. First of all, I would like to say huge compliments and felicitations to all those wonderful startups and people behind them who have made such wonderful products possible. As a country, we feel proud. Thomas Friedman once said, "The earth is flat." He said it in the context of when information technology was growing and people could learn information technology and start serving anywhere in the world. Today, not only in IT services, in innovation, the startups have made the earth flat, and IDEX is a living proof of such flatness of earth. Today, leading research labs from the world, from US, from Europe, leading OEMs from the world, Boeing, Airbus, Lockheed, are working with Indian startups. And it is this startup community which IDEX has channelized into defense and aerospace that we today see. I say this always, we had one DRDO doing some wonderful work, but there was one DRDO. When industry came and joined hands under Make 2 and other provisions, there were many industries, and it became 10 people working on the same or the 10 set of problems. And with startups, the number has gone to 1,000. And today we have 1,000 startups working on different problems of the armed forces. That is the strength of our startups. Friends, last year has been a year of challenge because of COVID-19. Do you think it was? No. If you ask the startup community, this was a year of opportunity. And do you know that the funding of startups by PE and VCs actually doubled during 2020 as compared to 2019? We had, during 2020, deals worth $34 billion, over 2 lakh crore rupees only in 2020. We had 20% growth in 2020 over what was doing in 2019, which itself was a fast growth year. So on a fast growth year, we have doubled the performance. And this is where, in COVID, we have shown how Indian innovation, whether it has been testing, whether it has been equipment, PPE kits, ventilators, and of course, the culmination with vaccines. India has shown it all among the leading innovation countries and has changed the confidence profile of our youngsters that the best innovation can happen in this country. And I think in IDEX, it is this confidence which is amply at display. And this is something which is changing, which is giving the confidence that the dream of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which Honorable Raksha Mantri and Honorable Prime Minister has seen, can happen in this country, and we can make these technologies happen here. Lastly, as has already been mentioned by Secretary Defense Production, for the first time, Honorable Raksha Mantri has approved under the Defense Acquisition Procedure an institutional framework under which products developed by IDEX startups can be procured by Defense Armed Forces. This is now an integral part of the Bible of defense procurement in Government of India. And so, I think now that several products are ready for production, I would encourage Defense Production Department, and I would encourage our armed forces and my own colleagues in the acquisition wing to start taking steps to acquire these products at the earliest. Lastly, I just want to make one more thing. Integral to development of new technologies and products is standards. Today, we have a huge limitation when we use products of other OEMs. We are getting locked in by their proprietary standards. And therefore, we get into a cycle that all future versions, additions, compatible products, etc., have to be from that vendor. I would like to request all our startup friends, in new technologies, in emerging technologies, the most crucial part is having your own standards. And if defense and aerospace is going to be the cutting edge of technology, while you are developing the products, you should start also looking in the area of developing our own standards. And Ministry will be very happy to work with you in developing those standards so that in future, we work, our platforms, our equipment, our weapons work on our platforms and not on foreign platforms. Once again, it's a real proud day to be here and to be with amongst all of you. Once again, my hearty congratulations and wish you all the very best. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your continued words of encouragement and constant guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to have in our midst Honorable Defense Minister Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, whose own hopes and aspirations for startups to deeply catalyze India's military is unparalleled. Sir, I invite you to deliver the presidential address.
Chief of Defense Staff, General Bipin Ji Rawat, Defense Secretary Dr. Ajay Kumar Ji, Secretary Defense Production, Sri Raj Kumar ji, Additional Secretary, Sri Sanjay Yaju, Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Santanu Dayal ji, young innovators, enterprising startups, those who are present physically and have joined virtually. Wish Sahastra Naman, the host of the event, who himself is connected with our startup initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, मैं कुछ बोलने के पहले जो बात मुझे टच की जब मैं चीफ ऑफ डिफेंस स्टाफ जनरल बिपिन रावत जी से बात कर रहा था, उन्होंने भी अपनी चिंता व्यक्त की कि हमारे आईडेक्स स्टार्टअप्स जो हैं उनको जो अमाउंट मिलता है वो मुझे भी पहले भी लग रहा था कि तो कम है, और मैं ये कहूँगा कि सेक्रेटरी डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन और डिफेंस सेक्रेटरी ये देखें कि कुछ ना कुछ ये बढ़ना चाहिए, मुझे बहुत ही कम लगता है. Dear friends, it gives me immense pleasure to address this gathering of young India, our promising startups, future entrepreneurs, corporates, government representatives, and all those who have joined virtually. It is a privilege to be talking at an event on startups. This event is a testament of India's ability to take the lead and further build our strength in the post-COVID world. Friends, India embarked on an ambitious Startup India program on the clarion call given by our Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi. This program is started with the objective of harnessing the young talent, the spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship ingrained in the Indian ethos. Startup India was based on three major pillars. First, simplification and handholding. Second, funding and incentives. And third, incubation and industry academia partnerships. With resounding success since its start, the program today boasts an ecosystem of more than 41,000 startups and 4.7 lakh jobs reported by them. Also, rupees 4,500 crore of investment made in 384 startups through Funds of Fund scheme. In such an ecosystem, it will not be an exaggeration to say that our economy is soon going to be driven by these startups. Friends, our government is acutely conscious that startups, being the latest in trends in the defense manufacturing sector, required that extra push. With this aim in view, we have taken many steps to foster and encourage this partnership with private industry. I would like to highlight some of them, like opening up the patents and laboratories of DRDO to private industry, setting up of young scientist labs in niche technology areas, programs like Innovation for Defense Excellence, Defense India Startup Challenge, and Idec for Fauji, etc. Dear friends, our commitment to ensure that technology developed by the Startup Ecosystem Act as force multipliers to the Indian military operational and combat capabilities. This has been highlighted in the latest version of the Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020. This allows startup to participate in Make in India forums and also reserve projects up to rupees 100 crore for micro, small, and medium enterprise. Friends, I have been informed that Startup Manthan 2021 is being organized by Innovations for Defense Excellence Defense Innovation Organization as an annual flagship event dedicated to showcase innovations and technological developments in defense sector. It brings together the startups, MSMEs, the corporate and military representatives to identify way forward and to further strengthen the partnership. Friends, as you are aware, Idec was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in April 2018 with the core aim to create corporate models for Indian defense needs. Such needs were to identify emerging technologies, connect innovators to military units, facilitate co-creation, and create pathways for incorporation of cutting-edge technologies into weapon systems used by our armed services. Attaining self-reliance in the manufacturing of defense equipment is a crucial factor for maintaining India's strategic autonomy. The IDEX initiative stands out as one of the most effective and well-executed defense startup ecosystem created in our country. I believe it is a decisive step towards achieving self-reliance in the true spirit of the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. I have been phenomenal progress made by the IDEX winners. Several of them are gaining recognition for their innovations at different national and international platforms as well. More than 1,200 startups and innovators have participated in Defense India Startup Challenge. Out of these, more than 60 startups have won in 30 technological areas under these challenges. I am proud to say that these brilliant innovators have been given grants of up to rupees 1.5 crore each to build these prototypes. Some examples of these innovations being high altitude pseudo satellites created by New Space Research and Technologies Private Limited and adoptive stealth by Hyper Stealth Technologies. Friends, in the aerospace sector itself, 300 plus startups are currently engaged, and under IDEX, 10 startups have developed the products worth rupees 100 crore, which have been displayed in front you in Aero India 21. Today, I am very happy to announce that the 45 MSMEs who have participated in Aero India have already got orders worth rupees 203 crore. This is a very heartening news, and I'm sure it will grow further in the times to come. Friends, the startup Manthan is going to provide a unique opportunity for startups to showcase their capabilities, products, and services to the targeted audience of industry leaders and business decision makers. Also, I believe the productive interactions with renowned national and international speakers, mentors, and thought leaders will provide learning opportunities to all those present here. Friends, when we talk about innovators, who can be better than a veteran turned into innovator with tons of field experience? IDEX for Fauji is such an initiative which provides opportunities to the members of the Indian Armed Forces to innovate. Their knowledge and first-hand experience provide a good source of feedback and innovative ideas for improving and bringing incremental improvements in existing platforms and equipment. They also provide for futuristic ideas for innovations in defense. There are more than 13 lakh service personnel working in the field and on the borders, handling extreme conditions and equipment. They have many ideas and innovations to improve such equipments. Idec for Fauji opens up a new window and allows our Faujis to be recognized and rewarded as innovators. Though it has been only 1 year since introduction of Idec for Fauji, the program is already showing promising results. Innovations done in the field of robotics, in maritime applications by Lieutenant Deepak Suman Kumar and wall penetrating radar by Major Anup Mitra are some examples that can I recount. Friends, similarly, IDEC's Open Challenge Initiative creates opportunities for innovators to propose ways for harnessing their technological capabilities to strengthen our nation's military capability. Anyone with an idea, technology, or a product that can be used in defense and aerospace can apply under this initiative. Towards this end, I would request all of you to come up with innovative ideas to support IDEX in its efforts to develop a robust startup ecosystem and provide valuable contributions in modernizing our armed forces. There is a huge potential in this sector, and there is a lot more to do. I expect and wish this event becomes a milestone in startup engagement in defense. Once again, I express my sincere gratitude to all of you for promoting startups and innovations in defense and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Sir, your words of encouragement will surely inspire the military and startups to join hands in transforming IDEX into the role model program to realize the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. IDEX has pioneered the product management approach, a unified framework for managing government-funded innovation grants, placing product outcomes over technical activities. To facilitate the seamless implementation of the co-creation process and to aid in the effective collaboration between the various stakeholders, primarily the innovators, the nodal officers from the tri-services and the DPSUs, a digital management information system referred to as the IDEX dashboard has been developed. I request Honorable Raksha Mantri to launch and unveil the IDEX dashboard by clicking on the button. It's time now for recognition. Our first announcement today is the winners of the first edition of IDEX for Fauji. As I read out the names, I request each of you to come forward and gather together at the steps. After I finish the announcement of winners, I invite the winners on stage for a group certificate handover and felicitation by the Honorable Raksha Mantri, followed by a group photo. In Army, we have 6 innovations that have won the IDEX for Fauji challenge. Major Anup Mishra wall penetrating radar. Captain Raj Prasad RS Exploder unmanned IED disposal ROV. Lieutenant Colonel Anand Bhatt cervical cancer detection using AI. Captain Vivek Ram HV, autonomous drone-based system. Captain Raj Prasad RS, he's like the Elon Musk, I believe, of the Indian Army. He's won a second time. For tactical surveillance and reconnaissance system. And Major Vijendra Singh Yadav, synthetic training environment. From the Navy, we have Lieutenant Deepak Suman Kumar, robotics in maritime applications. Lieutenant Commander Alok Sahu, inspection of pipelines and ventilation trunkings. Lieutenant Commander Mayank Sharma, design of portable compact system. From the Air Force, Wing Commander P.K. Mishra, remotely piloted vehicle range extension. Group Captain Pushpinder Kashyap, design of a mobile missile testing station. I invite Honorable Raksha Mantri and other dignitaries on stage for the certificate handover and group photo. I invite the winners to please join us on the dais. Thank you, sir. Many congratulations to the winners of IDEX for Fauji. Our next recognition is the winners of IDEX Open Challenge, the first edition. I request the winners to do the same as we have done in the previous felicitation. The winners, the first winner, Avishan Systems, Anil Yadav, development of loitering munitions for both the Navy and the Air Force. This is considered as 2 separate winning entries, sir. New Space Research, air-launched flexible asset swarm, Samir Joshi. Again, we have an Elon Musk type here. They have a second entry for stratospheric platform HAPS. Fabheads automation, design of carbon composite helicopter blades, Abhijit Rathore. Tunga Services, verifying and optimizing AI-based compiler, Saurav Bansal. Hyper Stealth Technologies, Adaptive Stealth, I believe it's clothing, Adaptive Stealth Clothing and Coating Materials, Manish Dalmia. Starbrew Tech Systems, Next Generation Communication over Radio, Naval Jain. Oculo Aerospace, long endurance aerial surveillance, Paridhi Govindaraju. I request Honorable Raksha Mantri and other dignitaries to hand over the certificate, and for a group photo, I invite the winners on stage. Congratulations to the winners. With that, we come to the conclusion of the inaugural session of Startup Manthan 2021. It is my honor to thank our chief guest. We can finish it, sir? All right. All right, so this is the winners of Disc 4, the fourth edition of Disc Challenge, and I request the winners to come on to the dais, to the right and to the left. Mr. Manan Suri, AI-based satellite image analysis, Siran AI Solutions. Ms. Sangeeta Das, AI-based satellite image analysis, Collaborative Intelligence Private Limited. For the challenge, foliage penetration radar, we have two winners representing Skyroot, Mr. Pavan Kumar Chandana, and representing Optimized Electrotech, Sandeep Shah. Autonomous underwater swarm drones. In this challenge, the winner is Sagar Defense, represented by Nikunj Parashar. For the challenge, predictive and preventive machine monitoring, we have three winners. Representing QED, Mr. Vineet Gupta. Representing Flutura and Sunlux, Derek Jose and Ram Kerur. Representing Exact Space is Rahul Raghunathan. For the next challenge, prediction of atmospheric visibility, we have an individual innovator, Mr. Venkatanathan Natarajan. And for the same challenge, the second winner is Puzzles India Technology, represented by Apurva Ankad. The next challenge, computerized targets for virtual training. We have two winners representing Oxygen to Innovation, Air Vice Marshal Ashok Singhal. And the second winner in the same challenge is AATWRI Group, represented by Mr. Ashish Kumar Behera. For the next challenge, target detection in SHAF environment. Again, this is an individual innovator, Mr. Swaroop Sahu. The next challenge, reduction of RCS of naval warships. The winner is Zeus Numerics, represented by Mr. Basant Kumar Gupta. And the second winner in the same challenge is AV Guard Systems, represented by Mr. Nilutpal Chowdhury and Dr. Shweta Amit from MSRIT. Yeah, so given the numbers are more, we will do it in two parts. So may I request winners from the left side to please come on stage and split between two sides of the dignitaries, and we will have the certificate handover. I invite Honorable Raksha Mantri to hand over the certificate. Now I invite the second half. Please split yourselves on either sides of the dignitaries. Thank you. Congratulations to the winners. So that brings us to the conclusion of the inaugural session. My privilege to thank Honorable Raksha Mantri and other dignitaries on stage for being part of this session. Thank you, sir. Yes. Good, I'll do it. Be very happy. I'm not carrying my card. You can actually reach out. Double 8 7. I'm based in Bangalore. Yes. I'll see you. We have more things to do. I'll see you. Yeah, we're continuing the event. Yeah, it's not over. Yeah. No. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you to take your seats. We still have the most awaited speeches and keynotes and other parts of this event. May I request each one of you to take your respective seats. There is going to be time for networking during lunch and beyond. May I also politely remind that COVID protocol is underway, so please find yourself seated in your respective seats so we can get started with the next segment. We have various speakers from different parts of the world that have logged in, some of them late in the night for their time zones. Can I request the winners? I completely understand the excitement. So the second part of the Startup Manthan, we're calling it the voices and views of global stakeholders. We will hear in this segment from some of the top influencers and shapers of the global defense innovation ecosystem from USA, Israel, of course, India, and among other countries. In the interest of time, and also keeping in mind the limitations of connecting a physical and virtual audience with the speakers, some of whom are joining here in person while others are attending virtually, we're not having a Q&A right after the speeches or presentations. However, we encourage you to email your questions to idex@forgeforward.in. That's IDEX, idex@forge, F-O-R-G, forward, forward.in, indicating which speaker your question is addressed to. We will process the responses at the earliest, and we will respond back to each one of your questions. This message is also for the audience that have connected live virtually and who are watching this event on the broadcast link. You may also be able to send your questions and queries, and we will have those responded to. Our first speaker is Colonel Nathan P. Dilla, Director, AFWorks, United States Air Force, to share his insights on the topic, decoding the key success factors of the AFWorks organizational and operating model. Colonel Dilla received his commission from the US Air Force Academy in 2000, has masters from Harvard and MIT, has attended Euro-NATO joint jet pilot training, has flown F-1s, F-16s, is an instructor pilot. He served as an executive officer of the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board, as Assistant Director of Aeronautics at the Office of Science and Technology Policy at the White House, and at the Office of Secretary of Defense Strategic Capabilities. He's a senior pilot with over 2,700 hours in more than 50 aircrafts. I welcome you, Colonel Dilla, to deliver your keynote speech, joining us live virtually from USA. Can we have Colonel Dilla on screen? Good evening, or is it good night to you there?
It's becoming a good morning. How do you hear me?
Welcome, Colonel Dilla. We are able to hear you. You can start your speech. Over to you. Thank you.
Super. Thanks so much. What a phenomenal opportunity it is to speak to a distinguished group of innovators. Congratulations to everyone on the recent award recipients. Commend you on your amazing efforts to continue to innovate, to bring forward these amazing technologies to the field. And it's exciting work that you're doing there. And it's really a great opportunity, I hope, for us to collaborate in the future. My only regret is that I'm not there in person and that you're having to see this enormous video of me on that screen there. So hopefully it's making it okay around the world. As a colonel in the Air Force and the director of AFWorks, we've started an exciting program called Agility Prime, a program looking to develop electric vertical takeoff and landing. This idea of democratizing air travel. I see incredible potential of partnering with the world's largest democracy, India. It is indeed a pleasure to be here as we look with the United States Air Force, the IAF, the Defense Research and Development Organization have grown major ties historically as we look into this future of becoming major defense partners and developing cutting-edge technologies, shared technologies like our C-130, like our C-17. As we move forward into this era of great power competition, it is crucially important for the U.S. and Indian militaries to become interoperable and support each other as we defend and share our important national security interests around the world. We support India's role as a rising power in the Indo-Pacific region and recognize its talented and large base of scientists and engineers that can help both of our air forces become more effective. Many of them are recognized here today. And how do we continue to build on that? AFWERX in particular is eager to include Indian startup companies during pitch days that we host. And I encourage you to check out our website. We have two actually, our afwerx.af.mil as well as afwerx.com, looking at some of the new approaches that we are taking in working with our startups. And I'll talk just a little bit about the approach that we're taking, and certainly would love to continue to include some of the great startups there, the great innovators there in the approach that we are taking to innovation. AFWERX recently has grown ourselves from a startup, and now we are in this process of going to a scale up. We are doing that because we are now under our Air Force Research Laboratory, which, as you all likely know, engages with Indian startups in technology priority areas. We found including startups in our research and development projects up front leads to more innovation throughout the life cycle of our programs. And with this arrangement between the Air Force Research Laboratory and many of these startups, we're seeing multiple opportunities for these collaborative research and development agreements. This opportunity for sharing great ideas, this opportunity for creating a springboard to launch those great ideas into large ideas that have an opportunity to radically change the security and the prosperity of our nations. This is a fantastic opportunity to pursue collaboration under the U.S.-India Defense Technology and Trade Initiative. We are looking to partner with Idec to share some of our best practices and to support your efforts over the coming year. And so I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about the approach that we've taken with this new AFWERX. This approach that is based on a foundation of partnership. And certainly our international partnerships are ones that we look to strengthen over this next year. I had the opportunity before I joined AFWERX to spend a couple of years on our capability development process in the Pentagon, working in air and space requirements. And as we've done that, what we have found is that we are not necessarily moving capabilities forward as quickly as we would like to. We're not bringing those new ideas to the field in ways that we want. If we use this traditional system of just going to the Pentagon for ideas, of just going only to our large defense prime for ideas, and going through this acquisition process that we've now had for many decades. And what we look to do with AFWERX is take a different approach, an approach where not only can we create new sets of capabilities for the security of our nation, but if we're smart about it, we believe that we are able to leverage the phenomenal power of our innovation ecosystem, a global innovation ecosystem among our partners, and engage that ecosystem in such a way that we're not just improving security, but we're also bolstering the prosperity of our nations by unleashing some of the greatest technologies that are out there. And so I'll talk just briefly to that, these three pillars that we call our app ventures, our SPART, and our prime programs. And with our app ventures program, this is an opportunity to engage what is over 80% of our country's innovation, research and development happening in the commercial sector with these phenomenal startups. And so we have this approach now where we are opening the door widely to that startup community, and ideally that global startup community, to bring in those new technologies that are out there. But those new technologies by themselves are not enough to create the capability. And this is where we internally have looked to our innovators in our Air Force, our airmen, and for our Space Force, our guardians, to bring in the greatest ideas that they have there. Their ideas of how to use those technologies that our technologists, that our startups are bringing. And so when we bring those two together, we now are in the position to bring those capabilities forward. And that goes to our last, so our app ventures, our Spark that bring those networks together. This last piece is then our prime. This prime idea is the idea of recognizing we have a very important task of using taxpayer dollars to provide capability to our military. As we do that, we're looking for new approaches, new opportunities to move that capability across. And this has happened through our Agility Prime program as our first, but we're now launching other prime programs. The structure of this prime idea allows us to co-invest and move very quickly, just over a year, from what could be a $50,000 contract, maybe to a multi-million-dollar contract. And we are offering certainly some of our funding, but we are also offering opportunities to reduce technical risk by sharing some of our test ranges, by sharing some of our expertise in testing. We're looking to reduce some of the regulatory risk in the electric vertical takeoff and landing market, these flying cars. Looking to do our own airworthiness and being able to cooperate with our civil authorities to do that airworthiness. And that airworthiness now allows us to go generate data, bring that back to our civil authorities to hopefully reduce barriers to both commercial use and to military use. So we believe this AFWERX model, this idea of a prime and moving forward in this electric vertical takeoff and landing market, is just the beginning of many great things that are to come as we engage with innovators across the ecosystem. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to all of you here today, and I am delighted about the future of working together with all of you, of bringing these innovators together and bringing capability to our field while bringing prosperity to our nation. Thank you, and good luck with the rest of your program.
Thank you, Colonel Dilla, for joining us live. It's very late for you there. We really look forward to the opportunity to host you here in person and to take forward a deeper engagement and partnership with AFWERX. Thank you. Moving on to our next speaker. Now, I have a question. How many of you have heard of Roger Bannister? Okay. Now, he's most famously was the first human to run the mile under 4 minutes. And he did that in the late, in the 50s. And for about 80 years, that was a feat that was considered impossible for a human being. Now, after Bannister ran a mile under 4 minutes, another 100 of them ran that in the next year. So a physically impossible human endeavor was actually a psychological barrier. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our very own Roger Bannister, Mr. Ankit Mehta, whose startup Idea Forge has shown how a startup can persevere with ambition to emerge as a world-class supplier to India's military. His startup recently won the order to manufacture and supply drones to Indian Army. And on the funnier side, if Idec and my incubator were to have a baby, maybe we would have called it Idea Forge. I invite Ankit to share from his own personal experience on building and scaling a defense tech venture in and from India. Ankit, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Vish, for that generous introduction. My thanks to the organizers for considering this as a great opportunity to share a little bit of what Idea Forge has gone through to be able to come up to this stage. It's almost 14 years since we registered our company, and almost 18 years since we actually built our first drone way back in the year 2004. And I remember journey to getting to a team that would build it with me in itself was a journey where it was impossible to find people even in a technological institution who were excited and interested about doing hardware. So when we started this, when I found my team, and I believe that a team is one of the most crucial elements and aspects of being able to take any journey, especially in this field, for a really long time. A team is super critical. And when I found my team, I found the courage to take on all sorts of challenges over that subsequent period of time. So that gave me the courage to start this company as well, because I had a team with me. The other part which really helped us a lot was the fact that there was a lot of support for doing that development inside my institution. So all the ideas that we had, we used to go up to our professors, and there were a few innovation cells which actually gave us the necessary seed capital to be able to procure the hardware and do the manufacturing. So imagine the world today that after so many years, we have institutional, national level mechanisms of being able to help entrepreneurs in implementing their ideas, get funding, get support for implementing those ideas, and be able to deliver world-class products to this stage. So I'm super excited about the times we are in as compared to when we started and we were doing this activity. The other thing which really, really is important in our opinion and has worked for us is to genuinely try to understand what are the constraints that we as a nation undergo when we are building for our defense forces. I distinctly remember when we wanted to make a aircraft, we felt that, especially a small one, we felt that it cannot be something that is restricted to the location of its deployment. It has to be something that is deployable almost anywhere. And when we understood that, we tried to look at the terrain that India has. And every geography in India has a varied terrain. There are mountainous regions, there are marshes, there are deserts, there are very high altitudes, and all sorts of different climatic weather conditions, marine conditions that we have to weather and design for. So I think that for us was a great challenge and a great opportunity to build something that pretty much, if built in India, can operate anywhere in the world. So for us, that was really important, and we made sure that we build our technology. We try to make it usable by our forces here, and our focus has always been on usability. And kudos to the stringent testing mechanisms, stringent standards that we have to adhere to, that we feel really confident about the products we build today, because they have gone through validation, the hands of our users, every day, every time that the system goes up in the air. Today I'm very proud and very glad to announce that every 15 minutes, one Idea Force system takes off in the country to deliver a mission, be it for the protection of our Jawans or to give economic empowerment to our Kisans in the field as well. So that is something that we are really excited about. And we've been able to get here only because we were pushed really, really hard by our forces to build it to real world operational conditions and not just build it to paper specifications. We every time get tested and validated, and that is something that I cannot stress enough as being an utmost important activity for us to look at when we look at our innovations. I feel that we are today in times where the pace of this innovation can be accelerated to the largest degree possible. And we should leverage this opportunity and the privileges that we have today to build a great defense ecosystem in our country. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ankit, for the inspiring several more entrepreneurs. Moving on, we have a friend from Israel joining us live, Yoni Ben Zaken, founder and CEO, Cirrus Cloud Ventures. Israel is called the startup nation, and most aptly so. The role of Israel's government and military specifically in harnessing the power of startups and venture capital is most unique, almost exceptional, and mostly inimitable. To share with us lessons and inspirations from the startup nation, I'm bringing live from Israel Yoni Ben Zaken. Do we have Yoni on VC Live?
Hi.
Good morning, Yoni.
Hi, good morning, Vish. Good morning.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Israel is called the startup nation, and I've read the book with the same title, which talks about many factors that have contributed to the meteoric rise of Israeli startups on the global stage. Per capita numbers of 1 billion plus exits, 1 billion and 100 million plus valuations in Israel are off the charts, much higher than Silicon Valley. Now, the first question, Yoni, is given the many differences between India and Israel, and as someone that has spent considerable time in India, can you tell us what are those top 2 or 3 factors from Israel that can work here in India too?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in such important event. We indeed believe that Israel and India has a lot in common, but also many differences. You know, together we are 1.1 billion, 1.3 billion people together. So Israel is like a small neighborhood in Delhi, and but although we are small, I think that there are a few factors that can work definitely in India, and maybe I will speak shortly about them. So first of all, what we see in Israel is I'm sorry. We see an ongoing movement between of people between MNCs and startup, multinationals and startup. In Israel, you see this a lot in R&D guys coming from companies like Google, Facebook, Apple that are conducting R&D in Israel and moving on to small companies and vice versa. And it creates a lot of value for the entire ecosystem, for the entire industry. You know, I just read the other day, last week, that one very large exit of the Waze navigation app that Google bought few years ago has created more than 50 unicorns of new companies, new technology, new blood that is running in the system. How do you do it? You make sure those guys interact together. Those guys are meeting each other. The big ones support the small one, and most importantly, you also attract talents to set up their own shop, like my previous speaker has spoke about. The second one is, of course, you create a private market and competition incentives. And we think that in a place that there is export, there is innovation. In a place that there is competition, there is also innovation. And although the Indian market for Indian companies is huge, especially in defense, I think that one has to encourage the companies to export, to look for new markets. And over there, when they'll find out that only quality play a role, quality and excellence, this will create again a great success at home, but also abroad. And maybe the third one, which is again very difficult to replicate, I think, but I think that India has to go for it, is creations of new pools of talents. If you take, for example, Israel, everybody speaks about the military pool, the one that takes 18, 19 years old guys, bring them in to the military, and at a very early age of their life, you give enormous responsibilities, solving super complex problems, sometimes a matter of life and death. And afterwards, when this, this pool is developing their capabilities, skill, decision-making capabilities, and other technological tools. And in Israel, the mandatory military creates thereafter a generator for talented and skilled flow of people that are accepted
But
by the industry.
Sorry, I have a question there. Now, I don't think we will be able to do military conscription, that's far, right? That's a stretch. But can we make it compulsory that, technical engineering education students should be innovating for defense? Is that doable?
So definitely, but I want to emphasize other thing. I want to emphasize the fact that the military technical, let's say, training that those 80, 90 years old guys receive at the military, for the military, are thereafter accepted by the industry and sometimes replaces formal academic education. And I think that this is the most important thing, that, not only, I'm not disrespecting, of course, IIT or any other technological institutions in India, but in Israel, we see that the industry really enjoys other pools of talents from this industry. Wonderful. So maybe those are two or three points that could be.
Sure, makes sense. Now, I have a second question. I'm going to put you in a bit of a spot, and I'm sure you will come out in flying colors. Now, if you were made CEO of Idec, in the wildest of imagination, right? Now, how would you go about its strategy and execution? As an Israeli, right, working in India, how would you go about? 2 minutes, Yoni.
Yeah, sure. So I'll touch maybe two things that are related to human being basic nature, okay? One is about diversity and one is about communities. And you're doing an excellent job. So the first tip, and it's only about tips, let's talk about good mix, like a good tally plate, My first tip is start mixing people from different backgrounds, from different disciplinaries. In Israel, you see a software engineer sits next to a psychologist, sitting next to a philosopher, sitting next to a combat officer in one company, in one R&D room. It works amazing. It also creates mobility between organizations. People are moving from place to place, from industry to industry. And although that I'm not, allowed to talk specifically about defense project, I could give you some examples that from the other direction, where you see a spillover from defense and intelligence industries towards civilian business. So you see this mobility takes anomalies as an example. What is the difference between looking for a single terrorist in a sea of data and information to detect anomalies which are relevant to fintech or to AI engine for autonomous vehicle? The second tip is maybe, and this is on top of what you're doing already in IDEX, is create communities. How are you creating industries in a place that there is no industry, there is no market access? Maybe there aren't no clients yet. In Israel, we found out that you create communities, and the mechanism is very, very simple, and it works very well. You recognize a domain where there is no defined industry, but there are linkages to other industries. For example, mobility or construction tech or digital health. And in Israel, the government fund very small money, one or two employees that establish a community. In Israel, by the way, in the last decade, there are already 14 communities, and they cost around $6 million. Okay, that's it. But each community, those one or two people that get salaries, suddenly, start from scratch. They speak with relevant companies. They create small meetups. over beers or over coffee and a database. And suddenly companies that never thought they are part of the industry are starting to get business opportunities
Sure,
from the industry.
sure.
So,
Okay.
So the bottom line is you create an ecosystem.
Ecosystem, yeah, brilliant. We will have to, end here, Yoni, in the interest of time. But we do have to keep this conversation going forward, and I do look forward to, meeting you in person at some stage when travel opens up from Israel. But thank you for the time and for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker needs no introduction within India's startup and venture capital ecosystem. Mr. Mohandas Pai is the chairman of RN Capital and Manipal Global Education, a prolific angel and VC investor, and a massive supporter of the startup movement and of entrepreneurs generally in India. Do we have Mr. Pai live?
Yes. Yes.
Sir, good morning.
Morning.
We're waiting for your video to come live.
Yeah, I'm there. My video is going, I think. I can see you.
Yes, sir. Now you are on the big screen. Greetings, Mr. Pai, from all of us at Idec. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Startup Manthan 2021 and to invite you to deliver a speech on the topic Building Tech Unicorns in the Indian Defense and Aerospace Sector. Over to you, Mr. Pai. Thank you.
Folks, thank you very much for inviting me. And I must say that IDEX is indeed impressive. I was very impressed to learn that more than 1,100 startups are already with you. I never thought that such a large number would be with you in a short period of time. Congratulations. What you have done is very disruptive, and I hope we do more. I want to remind you first about the size of the Indian startup ecosystem. Today, there are 50,000 startups in this country. Every year, 5,000 come up. They have created value of $170 billion. We have 43 unicorns. From 2014 till now, we got $70 billion for startups alone, not private equity. We got $11.5 billion last year. By 2025, we'll have between 125 to 150 unicorns. This year alone, another 10 unicorns may come by. And we'll have more than 100,000 startups. We'll create $500 billion of value. And there's amazing amount of technology that is happening in these startups all across India. If you are in Bangalore, and you are in Bangalore right now, though the outskirts, if you walk around some places, you'll find a buzz in the air. You put a hand out, you get a technology. And it's amazing what has happened because this is driven by young people and people from the IT industry. Let me give you some data about Bangalore, then I'll talk about what needs to be done. Bangalore has a population of 11 million people. About 2 million work in technology. There are 25,000 IT companies, 9,000 startups. Bangalore has more than 22 unicorns. And Bangalore has 250,000 chip designers and testers, the largest pool of chip designing talent in the world. Bangalore has 100,000 PhDs. And this is the place where innovation happens, this is the place of defense industry. So I'm very happy you're here and listening to all this. Now, to expand the system and make sure that Indian innovation and startups become part of defense in a very big way, what do we need to do? Well, there are three things that we need to do. First, we need more capital. China invests $65 billion a year. They are the second largest in the world. The United States, 135. We just invest 11 to 12 billion. Only 10% is Indian capital. We need more Indian capital. We need more of a financial institution like LIC and other long-term funds to invest, and we need policy changes for that. Second thing is we need certain changes in our tax laws. For example, capital gains and unlisted stock. If I buy IdeaForge and sell after 3 years, I have to pay 28% tax. Whereas you go to the stock market, you pay only 11% tax after 1 year. We need some changes. And the third, we need more research and development in universities. Even though India is a software superpower, we only produce 500 PhDs in computer science a year. We need to have a PhD program to create 5,000 PhDs a year across the top 100 institutions with funding from research who will do deep research in artificial intelligence, machine learning, into mobility, into robotics, into autonomous cars, and all other cryptography and all other areas. You must remember that in the United States, the CII has a fund to fund startups. They take a stake in the startups and they say we have the first right to technology for the first 1 or 2 years because they want cutting edge technology. So we need many things from the defense. First is we need large scale funding for startups for research. You're already giving 1.5 crores, but give it to 500 startups a year. Do it through the DRDO. Second, we need the DRDO labs, BEL, HAL to be opened up for all the startups to work with them in collaboration to use their testing facilities. I think that's very important to create a collaboration between them. Third, we need consortiums for big leap forwards. For example, we need to create a jet engine which can go at Mach 4, Mach 5. Why didn't you invite a group of startups to come together to work with NAL and others? We need supercomputing power. Why didn't you work with startups to form a consortium to do that? I think it's very important to form a consortium with the startup and local industry. Next, we need a lot of case studies from the defense industry. I was speaking to a very big innovator in the Silicon Valley. He set up a accelerator in Silicon Valley to create case studies. Now the defense has multiple users because they're the cutting edge, but they need case studies. We have to produce case studies and say, we want technology in these areas, put it to the startup, they will produce technology, and you've seen what they have done rightly. And next, which is very important, is today we need the use of dual-use technology. I was speaking to an innovative startup in Bangalore, which had created night vision equipment for India. DARPA came and bought it. They told us that Indian Defense went to DARPA and asked them, who is producing the best? And DARPA told them, a company in Bangalore. Then the Defense Affairs told them that, look, we can't buy from you in India because the procedure, go to Singapore. They went to Singapore to set up a place. So we need to have case studies for dual-use technology. And what they did was use the best mobile technology devices and components to create night-use equipment of a very high order, which even the Israelis said was very, very good because Israel does have cutting edge. So I think the idea of working with startup is important because startups are not incremental in technology. Most industries are incremental in technology. You have specs and you improve the specs and you do it incrementally. Startups are disruptive. They come with a new idea and the new technology to tackle something very, very differently. And today in civilian electronics and software, we have enormous amount of innovation coming. So the idea of disruptive technology is extremely important. Then I think you must use the offset policy. I think Shri Jajuji told me 2 days back that offset is now being allowed to invest in startups. So I would urge, India to talk to Lockheed, to talk to Boeing and American companies, which we have a large defense program, to start a $500 million or $1 billion fund for startups where they get in.
Mr. Pai,
India can become a force multiplier
Mr. Pai,
for the United
Mr. Jaju
States.
is joining us live.
Yeah, Jaju is joining. I know that. I think he must do it because today, we must think big. We are a $3 trillion economy going to a $5 trillion economy by 2026 and a $10 trillion economy by 2031. Nothing can stop the march of India. I got another 2 or 3 points quickly. We have to invest in robotics because warfare in future are going to be done by robots. We must invest in autonomous vehicles, autonomous technology, because we need all the military assets to move autonomously. We must invest in unmanned vehicles, in drones, like Idec Force has done in a remarkable way. We must do it 10x. We must invest in control systems. We must invest in software. We must invest in cyber security. I would urge the army, the armed forces under General Bipin Rawat to have a cyber corps for the army. Invite the best tech talent to come and join the armed forces with the cyber corps under him, where they'll work for 5 years. Like our Israeli friend said, they'll work for 5 years, tackle large problems in technology. They will get funding from research. After 5 years, they can stay on or they can go away because they will get exposure to problem solving, which will never happen in the civilian era. So I think it's extremely important. And lastly, I was very happy to see the great military talent. The military has got some of the best people India has produced in them. World-class leaders, world-class technologies who have joined the armed forces for the love of the country as great patriots. Now open up innovation to them in a much bigger way. Create incubation labs, create R&D labs, give them the best equipment in the world. Stop this process of purchases so they have full freedom to purchase technology and create a special innovation group within the armed forces reporting to the Chief of Army Staff. So they become innovators. And there, get your own people from the armed forces, from all of the 3 services or the 4 services, from the space too, and then get people from the civilian area, make them work together, and you find magic. So I want to end by saying I'm extremely happy to be here, and I want to wish you all the best. I want to say I'm prepared to work with all of you so that our dream of innovation-based technologies for our defense and a dream of being the cutting-edge technology power in the world, helping friendly countries to keep the peace in the world is done. And I'll be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I just came here to say my thanks to you, and we look forward to all your suggestions, and surely we'll have discussions with you in MOD. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dadili. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pai, for those words of deep inspiration and encouragement. Your energy is really infectious. And we will work with you more closely in the days to come. For our next keynote presentation, we're going live to USA to bring Dr. Matt Goldman, who is now awake in the middle of the night, to join us virtually. Do we have Dr. Goldman live?
Tish, good morning. Thank you very much.
Good morning to you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Matt. We did meet when you visited Aero India 2019. We had a chance to host you at Forge in Coimbatore for the first DIU IDEX conference. And here we are 2 years later, and to have you be a part of this Startup Manthan event is indeed exciting. Thank you so much. I invite you to share with us a few top case studies that exemplify the DIU model and success. Over to you, Dr. Goldman.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Or attempt to share my screen. Let's see. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, we can see
Excellent.
your slide. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, perfect. So again, thank you very much, Vish. It was wonderful to be invited back. I fondly remember meeting and working with you in Coimbatore. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I look forward to as soon as the COVID travel restrictions are lifted, to coming and working with you closely. So I'm the Defense Innovation Unit. Our goal really is to see how we can accelerate and transform and strengthen the ability for the defense industry to work with the commercial or our commercial partners. And what we found is that the only sustainable, scalable way of moving forward in this is to show clear benefit on the commercial side. We have built a network of 3 groups. NSIN, NSIC, and the Core Defense Innovation Unit. And our goal is really to straddle as much of the national security innovation ecosystem as possible, ranging from the researchers to the defense industrial base, and working with early stage companies and venture capital in the core of that to really bring to the defense side how we can best solve some of the hardest problems that the world has to offer. One question typically comes up in terms of why commercial, why focus. Our defense innovation, our defense entities, our defense ecosystem can function independently. And what we find is that the top tech companies are outspending the major defense players almost by a factor of 10. When we start bringing in startup technology and their ability to work together in this space, what we find is it becomes a truly exponential equation, where in the U.S. on the right side, the federal R&D spending is greatly outpaced by the commercial R&D spending. And instead of having it as a direct singular benefit for the startups and the commercial companies to work for the defense space because it's seen as the patriotic or the nationalistic or the correct thing to do. Really what we find is making the business case of how do we demonstrate to them value on the financial side And what we find is when we focus on the best technology from prototype and transition and scale, what we need to do on the defense and on the governmental side is offer a simple process with a quick award time. We need to offer rapid and ready access to large volume defense contracts, but not at a pace that is classic for government. We need to be able to match or come close to approximating the pace that is the commercial realm. And finally, it's some of these really unique high impact national security problems that are arguably most appealing to some of these commercial entities and these startups. On the government side, what we can then do is demonstrate value, and it's the commercial cost to save the taxpayer dollars. And so the governmental justification is that we're getting the best technology, the leading edge technology. And how do we do that in a competitive process that allows those startups and the commercial entities to really flourish and succeed? Part of what we found is that the timing is critical. That the classic governmental timeframes for grants and for awards can be onerous and frankly far too long for some of these early stage companies. When the Defense Innovation Unit was first beginning, there was a time to award of roughly 28 months. At that time, the average startup lifespan was 23 months, and that's untenable. And so part of this is that vendor time commitment, willing to work with the vendors to, if we jump down to the phase 3, and the ultimate goal is 60 to 90 days for an award, which puts us in the realm of commercial discussions. And then the award is wonderful, and the commercial world can bring the technology, but the next stage and the stage to really bring and prototype and then transition that into the defense ecosystem globally, where if it solves a problem in one country, it will likely address very similar problems in other countries. DIU is focused on 6 core technologies. We're currently working on advanced energy and materials, artificial intelligence, autonomy, cyber, human systems, and space. And we bring in several examples for this. So one example that we worked closely with our competitors, especially in the open source competition, is it was the XView 2 challenge, and it was a computer vision challenge for building damage assessment. And the problem statement was, how do we enable open source Earth satellite data to identify and assess natural disasters globally? And the current process is slow and labor intensive. And by hosting an international prize competition to develop computer vision algorithms, we were able to automate post-disaster damage assessments using satellite imagery. We had more than 2,000 submissions, and we resulted in 3 winning solutions with an 80% damage detection rate. And the top solution was almost 300% better than the government baseline algorithm. The impact was tremendous. And we were able to deploy the winning solution to assist in the 2020 Australian brush fires, as well as the 2020 Californian fire system. And what we find here is the ability to reach out to a global audience and begin to solve some of the truly difficult problems that are facing us, where we can leverage some of these skill sets from around the world. And how do we have this benefit our nation state problems and partners? Another example is peacetime indications and warnings. And this was leveraging commercial small sat synthetic aperture radar, SAR imagery, and analysis. And the problem was really, how do we address the critical need for improvised large-scale situational awareness, and that satisfies a lower cost, a less expensive day-night, all-weather imaging satellite capable of filling gaps. And 15 years ago, this would have been a discussion only limited to governmental and military circles. And what we found is this is a great starting point for the discussion of how many of these problem sets can be focused to the commercial sector who are solving them for similar problems on the commercial side, but that the governments can adjust and focus those problem sets and technologies and solutions into the governmental solution. So the impact here was we were able to deploy the first medium resolution SSR small sat. DIU has since facilitated partnering in cloud-based commercial SAR imagery and analysis, and the peacetime indication and warnings was expanded to full motion video for improved object recognition. And this was another great example of leveraging commercial machine learning algorithms to improve existing processes and solving a singular problem for a wider audience within the governmental space. So in terms, our DIU has found that the ability to entice the commercial entities and small stage companies is most focused on the ability to get them the resources they need rapidly, at the same time allowing them access to some of the most difficult problems that we have to solve. Because if those can be solved on the government side, they generally, or what we found is that they have applicable dual use commercial applications out beyond the government.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. IDEX in many ways has taken deep inspiration from DIU at a vision level, strategy, and at an operating level as well. And to join us at 3 a.m. Your time is we're deeply indebted to you, and hopefully the next time around it would be in more civil hours and possibly in more relaxed situations. But many thanks, and on behalf of Mr. Jaju, my privilege to thank you for taking the time out to be part of this event. Thank you.
Hopefully next time it's in person, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. Have a good night. I now invite Shri Sanjay Jaju, AS, DDP, and CEO of IDEX on stage to engage in a moderated conversation with senior bureaucrats on the role of government in both contributing to the rise of startups and in benefiting at the same time. I invite on stage Shri V.L. Kanta Rao, DG Acquisition, Minister of Defense, and Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industries, Commerce and IT Department, Government of Telangana. Over to you, sir.
Indeed, it's good morning, friends. It's indeed a pleasure. Actually, I'm having two of my best friends here, but important government functionaries. One is working in the state of Telangana, and Telangana is the startup capital of the country, and of course, Karnataka and Telangana. And Jayesh has been, what one can say is the pioneer in terms of how a government system can enable a startup culture. And I have on my right side my esteemed friend and our Director General Acquisition, Mr. Kanta Rao, who was also earlier in the Defense Production Department. So I have a question each from both of them. And first I'll come to Jayesh. And Jayesh was also part of the startup Manthan when we did it 2 years back during Aero 19. And Jayesh is Principal Secretary of Industries and IT Department in Telangana. And of course, this question is not related to what you do in Telangana. This question is to your abilities in creating the startup culture. And I can see, there are many companies that we have incubated in IDEX. And if you ask them, they will tell you where they are from. They will tell you they are from Hyderabad. They are from Telangana. And of course, you're the man behind the energy that's absolutely palpable in the startup ecosystem that you have. So I just have a question. What in the government are we supposed to be doing to create enablers for creating this startup ecosystem?
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. Good morning, all the participants, those who are here and those who are online. See, many people, if you actually ask the startups themselves, what do they expect from the government? Some years ago, their unanimous answer would have been that if the government stays away from us, that is the best thing that you can do. But not anymore. They have recognized and they have realized and they have appreciated that there are many things that the governments can do. They have seen how Startup India at the national level has really given a big boost to the startup movement, how ministries like yours have encouraged and supported and nurtured startups, and states like ours in Telangana, how we have created a very conducive ecosystem. So very quickly, there are a few things which the governments ought to do. So one is, of course, that you make your intent very clear, because government itself, as all of us know, has multiple arms, and it is a multiple-headed hydra, and one head does not know what the other head is doing. So your intention has to be very clear so that there is a buy-in from everyone. And typically you do that by bringing out a policy. And many states who are today considered to be the leaders in supporting startups, including our state of Telangana, what I notice about them is they have brought out good policy, which is very comprehensive and it is very practical, actionable. See, normally when you talk about government policies, you think of documents which are written very well, they read very well, they're printed glossily, but very little action happens on the ground. So these are actionable policies. The second is that, see, again, if you ask about the government, why is there a big gap between what they announce and what happens on the ground? One issue is of ownership. So again, I have seen in states which are the leaders in, and governments which are the leaders in startup movement, including your own ministry, the IDEX program. What we have seen is that they have created institutions which take ownership. Like you are the person who has been stewarding the IDEX program right from the beginning. In Telangana, we have created something called T-Hub. In Kerala, we have something called the Startup Village, and so on and so forth. Rajasthan, another prominent government servant, you may be familiar with him, Abhay Kumar. He has created something called the Bhamasha. So there has to be some ownership. Someone takes the responsibility full time of providing that kind of hand-holding support to startups. And of course, you also need to do this in a partnership mode. See, we in Telangana, for example, realized that right at the very beginning that the better talent to run startup programs and engage with startups lies outside the government. And we had the sagacity to bring that talent inside the government. So policy, institutions, and talent is something which the government can really bring on the table for supporting startups.
It's indeed, in fact, T-Hub is also one of our partner incubators, and there are many startups which are actually getting incubated there. And a very important point that I always wondered I was his predecessor in the earlier erstwhile combined state of Andhra Pradesh, and this point that, why is the IT industry growing? And the point that used to come is because, you guys are sleeping, we work in the night. We have the US shifts to perform. But I think the point that you underscore, and I think many of these startups actually have been telling us that when you're trying to create an ecosystem, especially in a system like ours, where you're talking about defense, which is a monopsony, we are the single buyer, you actually would require government support. And I'm very happy to see my friend on the right, Mr. Kanta Rao, who's earlier the additional secretary in the defense production. Now he's the man who looks after the procurement. In fact, he is the man in demand. I mean, we can incubate startups, we can create products, prototypes, but eventually, when it comes to defense, they have to be integrated into the defense procurement system. And I know that he has made a lot of changes in the policies and the procedures. But I request Kanta to tell us, how do you? And in fact, Raksha Mantriji, when he came in the morning, he said that this 1.5 is not enough. I think we had to tell him that it's only for the prototype. The procurement baby is going to come at 11 and announce something. So we want to know from you, what is in store for the startups getting incubated under IDEX and creating products and prototypes? Kanta.
Thank you, Jaju. And first of all, I want to congratulate the team of Jaju and his entire IDEX and DP team to have organized such a good event. I was watching in the morning, and the 3-4 success stories that were announced here, and the prototype that is kept outside. It's a great event, and congratulations to you. Secondly, I want to take from where Jayesh has left, where he said that it has to be driven by a good policy, a clear guideline of the government. So we have come up with the defense acquisition procedure, which is the new procedure from 2020 to 2025, where we have clearly said that the highest priority of our purchase would be the items which are indigenously designed, developed, and manufactured in India. And what startups create are actually the IDDM, what we call IDDM items, indigenously designed, developed, and manufactured in India. And I want to tell you that day before yesterday, if some of you were there in the inaugural event, we did the largest defense deal for an indigenously manufactured item with HAL for about 48,000 crore in the LCA Mark 1A purchase by the Defense Ministry. So it's not an easy task for HAL to ensure an IC, the indigenous content, and that too in a category of indigenously designed and developed and manufactured items within the country. That means they need a lot of support. You may have seen the announcement or the news that about 500 private companies will be working with HAL to make sure that 50% of what they make is indigenously designed and developed and manufactured in India. And we have even said that by the end of the last aircraft that is supplied to us, the indigenous content should reach up to 60%. It's a very ambitious target, and they would need the support and the help of a lot of you people, the startups of this country, the Indian companies which can make those small components, the big components, the sub-assemblies within India will actually help HAL. They're looking for these kind of collaborators, will help HAL meet the target of 60%. And whatever you prove through your IDEX route, if you have established a successful proof through IDEX, then we have a provision in the defense acquisition procedure that we will accept that as a single vendor through the make-to route. That means you will automatically get the order through the make-to route of procurement that we do. So I wish you the best, and I look forward to some of the startups being part of our HAL procurement of LCA, and many more other procurements that we will be doing, because the new procedure stresses more and more on indigenous content and indigenous design.
Thank you. I think that's a great news we were all looking forward to. So you have the procedure in place, and not one, there will be at least about 50 prototypes which you are going to be seeing in the next 6 to 7 months. And I'm absolutely confident that with you at the helm of affairs, the defense startups can look forward to an absolutely golden path next few years. I'm extremely thankful to my friend from Jayesh's commitment to his craft is immense. Last 3 days, he has been running around trying to pick in investments from wherever he could for the state. And here we have our Director General Acquisition, who has given you a complete assurance and a commitment that we would only buy from India and take the Atmanirbhar Bharat pledge to the next level. My thanks to both of you. We would have been very happy to hear more from all of you, but the problem is, in the interest of time, we'll have to wind it up. And don't worry, you can see only few people here, but this is a hybrid event, and I am told that it's globally going to about a million people right now. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan and Mr. Kantara. Yeah. Sure. So we will change the order of presentations around. So now we will have three very eminent personalities that we've reached out to, global influencers, global thought leaders, who bring a global perspective to the broader trends shaping defense innovation. The first of the three eminent personalities we have is Mr. John Chambers. And it's very interesting because he was my first super boss of my own professional career when I started with Cisco 21 years ago. Mr. John Chambers, the legendary founder and chairman of Cisco, who is now amongst the most active angel and VC investors in startups around the world. Mr. Chambers is presently the founder and CEO of JC2 Ventures and chairman of USIS PF. Can we have the message from Mr. Chambers played?
Hello, I'm John Chambers. I'm joining you today from California, overlooking Silicon Valley and all the startups and innovation that occur in this country, with more than half of it coming out of this small geography. I believe what you see in India is going to be an instant replay of what's happened here in America around startups uniformly across all 29 states, and with the Ministry of Defense playing a key role in encouraging startups and new technologies to work together. I want to welcome everybody to today's session, the government leaders, the defense leaders. Thank you for giving back to our country and protecting the country. To your investors, and most important, the young entrepreneurs who are saying, I have a dream of what's possible, and who will be pitching to you later. What is so exciting is I've watched the innovators and the young startups in India literally double in terms of their interest and focus just in the last 5 years. You can see their energy they bring, great schools like the IITs generating this, especially from a technology perspective, but also the willingness to believe in a vision of a digital India that encompasses defense, but the whole country in many ways. I see many great opportunities in India for investments. I've already invested in 2 companies, and one of them's well on its way to hopefully becoming a unicorn, and the other one is leading in security. So it's an exciting time that I see across your entire country. Very often I've learned from the experiences in Israel. Israel, probably more than any other country in the world, ties its startup engine to its defense engine, and almost a 360-degree cycle on how they work together. And it's one of the many reasons that Israel is known as the startup nation. We do the same thing here in the US, where we have an innovation unit here in California, not to the scale that Israel does, and I think we can continue to learn from them, but focusing on how the startups interface to defense and to government in a unique way, and how government is often able to say, here's the problem we're trying to solve. Jointly, how do we develop these products as we move forward? I anticipate that perhaps one of the companies you see today, and a number are going to pitch to the group, much like 8 startups pitched to Prime Minister Modi just about 2 weeks ago, with capturing the imagination of what's possible, and with you all reinforcing the startups about the importance of what they're doing to your country's future. There's nothing more important than national security in today's world. There are a lot of unique rogue nation states, challenging peers, and candidly just hackers in general that will really challenge our sovereignty of our great democracies in both of our countries. When you think about going forward, we also have a challenge in China. Shares a huge border with India. And while I was the original champion of China for much of high tech in Silicon Valley back in 1990s, China at that time was the win-win mentality. It's now a win-lose mentality. I think that will change over time, but the issues to both of our countries, and also the issues on defense versus China, I think we understand from intellectual property literally all the way through a secure supply chain, and innovation that is based on open standard and protecting the future of our countries. If you look at what is going on in the world, I think this is the key to the future, where large organizations work with the natural innovation engines of startups, and not only to produce the best products that help in security and keeping the nation state safe, and the ability to focus on defense, but really help in so much on job creation in the country as we move forward. So I want to thank each of you for joining us today. I know it's going to be a great session, and may innovation lead in job creation and the future of our great democracies.
That was Mr. John Chambers. The next global thought leader we have is Steve Blank. He's called the father of modern entrepreneurship, and for very good and absolutely right reasons. Mr. Chief Steve Blank is adjunct professor at Stanford University, and to me personally, he has codified the science of entrepreneurship and has created a vast treasure trove of knowledge for innovators and entrepreneurs that rivals some of the very best business schools in the world. He's a walking, talking, living institution of entrepreneurship, and let's hear a message from Steve Blank now.
I just want to share with you a couple of thoughts about technology, innovation, and modern war that I think are global problems. New technologies are rapidly changing weapon systems, operational concepts, and the very nature of war. Rapid innovation in new technologies, and the whole suite of them, are no longer being led by military and government labs, but instead they're coming from commercial vendors, from companies, and unfortunately many of them Chinese. The result is that unlike the last 75 years, militaries in both the US and India can no longer predict or control future technologies used in war. And while existing contractors who develop their expertise all around hardware continue to be important, many of these new weapons in wars will be driven by software: AI, machine learning, cyber, quantum, autonomy for drones, ships, and tanks. And these new technologies are not just making new weapon systems, but they're driving new operational concepts. Current approaches, both in the past and today, to innovation across the government, and here I'm talking about the US, are piecemeal, incremental, and increasingly less relevant and insufficient. And you are best to judge of whether that's true also in India. Both in the US and potentially in India, need new sources of disruptive innovation and ideas. Again, not as replacements for the valuable prime contractors we have, but as complementary partners who are agile, can attract the best and the brightest, and are willing to bet their company on new ideas. But this new generation of military systems are being built around software with hardware as the add-on, and upgrades can happen over the air in weeks, not years. Today, the world's innovation ecosystem for new technologies are actually venture capital and startups, both in India and the United States. One very specific solution is that a Department of Defense should pick new entrants as winners at scale. Each service should pick 10 to 20 startups or scale-up winners and buy heavily. Just as a reminder, and you live with this as a neighbor, so you understand this, but China has invested over $100 billion in moving its manufacturing base from making low-tech products to rapidly developing new high-tech industries, including electric cars, next-generation computing, telecommunications, robotics, etc. Now, I understand these are not minor changes, but the technology is certainly within the reach of the Indian defense community. It's the organizational changes that will be the most difficult. They strike at the heart of the status quo, in the military, with existing contractors, with all the existing arrangements that exist. But understand that China has mastered them, and so have other adversaries next to India. And so the future of India's security and peace in the region depends on how India moves to the future. We're happy to help here in the United States. We think of India as our greatest partner in the region, and we're ready to be engaged. So thank you for the time.
That was Steve Blank. We have lined up a few messages in the form of inspiration from Indian startup entrepreneurs and founders, but I'd like to go first to Mr. Sridhar Raju Gadi, who is right here with us. And Sridhar, I invite you to share with us from your personal experience of what it takes to build a successful tech venture from India, a high-growth tech venture, and also particularly about how and what it takes to work with government, both as a sponsor as well as a buyer. Thank you, Sridhar. Over to you.
It's already 12 o'clock, so good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate entire Idec team. I remember as a panelist, I participated 2 years back as a small startup event Today, I can see so many startups, growing here, doing several projects with defense. Congratulations. Another reason to celebrate is because whatever you are doing for defense is called technology to societies. Because if you're helping the country, so you should be very proud, and country is proud. That's exactly what I do at Quantilla. We provide technology to societies. So, for me, I developed a technology for urban infrastructure to develop smart cities. So every day when I wake up, I feel proud and I feel energized because helping the society. Especially since all of you are working with the government, with defense and other several government agencies, would like to share my experience focusing on government, how you can be successful, what are the 3-4 things which I learned which can be, lesson to everybody. So first of all, as a startup, you have to be extremely focused. And government do take time to close the deals. The first thing what we have done is getting a right, good go-to-market partners. In our case, we partnered with John Chambers, Cisco. So we partnered with Cisco and we integrated our technology with Cisco technology. And we complemented our technology with them. Then they had 10,000 people taking us to the market so that we can focus on our technology. That's first thing. Second, we have realized that Cisco is also a product company. And our end customer, government, though they have technology people, their business is not to do technology. Their business is to serve the people. We realized that we need to be technology with service now mindset, which means my goal is not to just provide the technology, but to deliver the technology to customer and show the value. Because there is a huge difference between technology implementation and then technology adaptation. Then third, the advantage of working with partners. So when you work with a big firm or when you directly work, what happens is your mind will be diverted because the requirements change. You will continue to develop the product into different directions. So rather, focus on product, build a world-class product, build a purpose-built product. Because companies like Google or Microsoft, they build products of larger scale for the global good. But when you develop a solution which is a purpose-built solution. That's what exactly we did. When everybody was developing IoT platform for smart cities, we built a purpose-built platform for smart cities. Because people had IoT platform, visualization platform, AI platform, OT platform. What we did is, what are the city's problems? How can I develop a single purpose-built platform which can do 5 times faster, 5 times cheaper with very robustness? At the end, one thing wanted to say and end, pandemic has created a huge digital acceleration. There is a huge opportunity for startups to grow 5x from today. Innovate continuously, both technology and go-to-market, and there is a great opportunity ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sridhar. Nice of you to join us here in person. We now cut across live to Professor Gurumurthy, CEO of SID, Indian Institute of Science. Do we have Professor Gurumurthy online?
Are you able to hear me? I'm here.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. And yeah, we can see you on the big screen on the stage here.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time out to be a part of this event. I'm delighted to invite you, sir, to share your views on the topic, role of top incubators within eminent institutions in nurturing world-class technologies and seeding ventures in defense. Over to you, Professor Gurumurthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sasnaman. Thank you for this opportunity. And very at the cusp of the afternoon, so good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on where each of you in the audience are. So I guess since I am part of an incubator situated in academia, I'm going to take the next few minutes to talk about what incubators in academia can do for the strategic sector. And I'm keeping defense, as one of the key strategic sectors, but there are others, so we will include all of them. One of the first things, and I think somebody mentioned this, I think Mr. Pai mentioned this about PhDs, right? I think for strategic sector, it's all about innovation in strategic sector is all about new ideas. And new ideas come from some serious intellectual risk taking, and that usually happens with academic research. I don't say research in academia, but academic research, because academic research can happen anywhere, but it is academic research that involves serious intellectual risk taking. So that's the first and foremost thing that the academia brings to the table, and therefore this is something that the incubator situated in academia must then exploit, to translate it into products and technologies that the strategic sector can build. So one of the things that I believe, and this is probably true of what Sahnam referred to as advanced institutes, or what they call higher educational institutions, where research is a key component, that they should probably look at working with deep science and deep technology based companies. And so these are companies that have access to breakthrough scientific advances and engineering technology innovations, which can provide a very disruptive USP for the people who want to run such an idea, because since it is based on serious research, the underlying IP is usually very hard to reproduce or well protected. And also because it comes from academic institutions, the spectrum of the source of these technologies is also very wide, as are the needs of the strategic sector. So that's another fit there that this works well for looking at incubators in academia. Now, what do we do with these startups in such incubators? One of the first things we must realize is that these startups typically need a very long gestation period. These are not companies that are developing an app that can be turned around very quickly, or some aggregator service which can be also turned around fairly quickly. Building may take a long time, but at least the first launch can be very quick. These are technologies that need a strong gestation period, and therefore the incubators must have both the patience and the resources to support these companies over this kind of a duration. 2 to 3 years is a must, but we see that typically it goes anywhere between 4 to 6 years. One of the stories that you heard was a story of 13 years, right? That may be for commercial success, but I'm sure even for getting the product out in front of the customers, they must have taken 6 to 7 years. The other thing that these incubators in academia can do is to provide access to the repository of research and know-how that gets developed in these institutions. As I said, innovation for the strategic sector is all about ideas, and that's the biggest contribution. The next thing that we incubators can provide is access to facilities. Right? Faculty over time, for their own research and work, they would have established world-class facilities in these institutions. These could be in nanoscience, these could be in material characterization and testing, these could be in animal testing, these could be in testing and validation, chip design tools, you name it, and most institutions, at least the leading institutions, will have access to these. And it makes sense to provide access to these companies to these facilities, because that may give them the advantage that they otherwise lack. The next thing, of course, is the access to the intellectual resources, both the faculty and the students, and very importantly, alumni. Right? One of the things that these institutions can typically, very proud of is that their alumni are world class. They go out in the world, almost conquer the world, and come back with experience not only on the technology side but also on the business side. And since they have a shared history with the institution, right, their participation becomes very useful and very important, especially for the startups and their founders. The last thing I believe, and this is a comment that one of our board members always makes, is that such institutions typically have a very large convening power. And this is an advantage that should not be taken lightly, because institutions can therefore create an ecosystem, of very critical elements that are not obvious to the eye immediately. National labs, government agencies, industries, experts globally, and standards bodies. Right? Being in an academic institution, a leading one, it is very easy to tap into these resources very quickly and connect them to the startup to address their concerns, provide a solution to them. So that's another thing that, I would think that the academic institutions can do quite well. The next thing feel is
Professor,
to engage with startups at various stages of the life cycle. Right? Typically, we sort of push them out into the real world, let's say after 2 years, saying, okay, bye, your time is over, and we see you. Right? But I do believe that, if you are looking for deep science, deep technology startups, it is very important, that you hold their hands much beyond that, even through the commercialization, and sometimes even the market and in-market scale-up, you need help. And that's something that I think these incubators should provide. There's one other activity that we do, and I'm hoping that others will also, and I'm sure there are others who do, maybe we don't know about this, which is to engage with startups, with SMEs, sorry. They're slightly different than startups in the sense that these are, startups lack the market-facing capabilities, but they have good technology acumen, and maybe even an IP with them. The SMEs are the exact opposite. They have very good business, facing expertise, but may not have access to technology. And so we believe that academic institutions, and especially incubators in academia, can also be a technology incubator for the SMEs. And one of the spaces in India where SMEs will need technology is the core cohort of SMEs that cater to the strategic sector. And we've been working with SMEs in this space because, industry defense is looking to SMEs to provide their, technological needs and solutions. And we believe that this is one good way for academic institutions to engage with the SMEs and provide them technology and give them the whole new product development experience so that they can then serve the needs of the IDEX probably does this. We have presented this to several, defense bodies, and they always say that, is already being done in IDEX. But I believe I want to leave one, sort of distinction here for people to consider, which is that the interaction here is in two phases. One is where the POC or the proof of concept of the technology is being established, where the academic institution or the incubator must take the lead. And the thing must flip immediately after that, where the company takes the lead, but the academic institution continues to hold hands. Now, the only difference here is that in the first phase, the SME should be involved from day one. And that is something that is not right now possible with the kind of schemes and programs that we have. And I would just like to close with that thought that, if we can have the SMEs engage with the academic institutions and, these translation houses from day one and have them flip, after the POC is created to then further run with the product to provide services to the strategic sector, I believe, we will be well on our way to have this community as well contribute to the innovation needs of the strategic sector. Thank you very much.
Very broad encompassing views there, Professor Gurumurthy, and I'm sure a few of those ideas and initiatives are in the reckoning, at least within the IDEX roadmap for the next 2 to 3 years. So I think under the very broad innovation banner, we would have to look at various different segments and different forms of interventions. And I'm sure an institution as steeped as IISc has greater role and a leadership role it can play in shaping the future of defense startups and startups in the strategic sector. So thank you, sir, for your thoughts, and look forward to personally engaging with you more closely in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Look forward to that, and we'll play our role. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. In our next segment, we're calling it the Startup Spotlight. We wish to showcase a set of 5 IDEX winners who will each present a rapid-fire pitch of their startup, talking about their technologies and solutions. The 5 startups which we plan to showcase today are 1, Starbrew, number 2, Optimized Electrotech, number 3, Sagar Defense, 4, Flutura Business, and I believe they're joined by Sunlux, and number 5, Avision. What we will do is we will have each one come up on stage and make a presentation with a slide. So if we can have the first startup, Star Brew, and if we can bring up their slide. Do we have the representative from Star Brew? Yeah, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Ashutosh, co-founder Starbrew Tech Systems along with Naval. Basically, we are embedded hardware and software development company with prime focus on defense sector. Here we have developed a product, Tactical Visual Wireless Data Module, which is a combo of hardware and software. Basically, it enables army personnels to use their radio sets and run WhatsApp kind of facility over that too, without internet and without SIM card. So it is very useful for defense sector, like in disaster management case, in centric warfare solutions, for fleet management. It can be used. And right now we have gone through some traction, like we have already tested it multiple times at multiple locations, including Leh Ladakh, Siachen, in desert area, in Rajasthan, LAC. So everywhere we have provided these equipments to our army personals. Functionally it is tested, but not on the product stage. So with the Idec platform, we are going to develop this as a product and full-fledged supply to the Indian Army. That we have get the perception once we have applied in the open competition, Open Challenge 1.0, and we have won that. So finally, we are bringing next generation communication over existing radio sets with our innovation. That is our main part. And in this journey, we are already getting grant, but since we have got this platform, so one thing I want to share, maybe someone can be of our use. We need some more funds in our project. So we are open for private funding also to accomplish our task. That's all from my side. Basically, it helps our Jawan to secure their life threatenings as much as it can, and it can be useful for combat operations in forest, ITBP, state police. Everyone can be user of it, and we have already going on with those agencies also in different states. We are implementing. We are just we are on the trial and testing mode. We have got reports also, and in future we are going to sell them all this product line. Thank you very much.
Next, I invite on stage Optimized Electrotech.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It's indeed a pleasure being here. I'm Sandeep Shah from Optimized Electrotech, co-founder of the company, and I'm also joined here with my co-founder Anil Kumar Yakala. We are an imaging systems and surveillance platforms company. Surveillance, as everybody would agree, is the need of the hour, and it's always been the measure of peacekeeping. If you know what's happening around you, you can always make sure that things are fine. We're working towards becoming a global surveillance entity, where our imaging platforms, which are essentially building blocks of a combination of electronics, software, which is AI, as well as at the edge, and optics and optomechanics, is going to be a differentiator for us going further. These platforms are useful for various activities, including homeland security, defense, civilian use cases such as retail, as well as in cities and smart cities. We are a team of co-founders all passionate about AI to be used for society, and we all come from elite institutes such as IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, ISI Kolkata, etc. And we are all with 100+ man years of experience with 32 patents. And we, as organization, also we have filed for 4 patents now, and we have already served Indian Railways as well as Indian Army with our solutions. We are pretty excited to also be the second-time winner of the Make in India for Defense Challenge, which is Idec. We have been winners for the Indian Air Force Challenge, and today we have also been the winners of the Indian Army Challenge. Indeed, it's also a privilege to be the finalist of the CRPF surveillance competition, and our products have been approved by RITES as well as by the BPR&D for police. So it's been a great journey so far. We are an university company of GVFL and are also looking for more funds to come in, obviously, like all the other startups before me and after me. The use case of these platforms are plenty, and these are all from visible light all the way up to thermal imaging, which can be used for detection under all the circumstances, including under fog as well as behind foliage. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
The next is Sagar Defense. Do we have anybody from Sagar Defense? Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you. Our company name is Sagar Defense Engineering, and I'm the co-founder of it, along with Captain Nikunj Parashar. So we are the control guys. We are a robotics company. We have suites of products from sea to air, and now we are venturing into underwater also. So we have been validated by ONGC. We are an ONGC invested startup, and we have only one mission: to accelerate the world transition towards unmanned autonomous system, because in time to come, it will not only save time and money, but also human lives. We have been awarded for the DISC 4 for the autonomous underwater vehicles doing swarm operations. And they'll be doing swarm operations with our control systems on board. So the USP of our control system is that they can be integrated on any kind of vessel, irrespective of shape, size, and propulsion, and that will turn that system into an unmanned system. So we do the control systems of that system. And we have been awarded for doing mine counter measures using the AUVs that we'll be building under the Idec challenge. And we have worked with Fugro. We have worked with Indian Army. We have supplied our systems to these esteemed organizations. And in time to come, we would like to collaborate with any emerging technology that we could collaborate and contaminate each other. Thank you very much.
Next, number 4 is Flutura Business and Sunlux.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Derek Jose, and I have with me Mr. Ram Karur from Sunlux Systems. In the yogic sciences, it is said that if a person's kundalini is unlocked, he'll be able to perceive a lot more than what his 5 senses can perceive. So our intention is to unlock the kundalini of machines and processes using sensor data. So what we essentially do is we built a sensor fabric around electromechanical equipments, and we suck out the data and predict outcomes. We did a project for the Indian Navy, which is around predicting the failure of the gunnery subsystems, and we have got an accuracy of 96% currently. We also won the Idec challenge, where we are on to expanding this to multiple other subsystems. It could be the turbine, it could be the auxiliary motor, desalination plants. You want to add? Yeah.
Thank you. So we partner with Flutura from Sunlux to give an end-to-end solution. We have been in-house DSIR approved R&D, a DPIT approved startup, and more so we also been approved for space and atomic energy and delivered multiple systems. And now we would like to provide end-to-end solution right from the sensor to the edge gateway to the server, which are ruggedized, which can be deployed in the system. As everyone was requiring a standardized solution, we all qualify our products for the mill grades, which can be used for onboard applications. Having done right from retrofit to the current underwater vessel to the new developments for the upcoming programs, we have enough knowledge and understand the challenges, and very confident with Flutura will deliver the solutions as per expectations. Thank you. And we have been Make in India right from startup
whenever we started 10 years back. So thank you very much for this.
The last spotlight startup, Avision.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Anil Yadav from Avision Systems, and our core business is loitering munitions. Now, when we say loitering munitions, we mean to provide a standoff capability to the infantry soldiers, to the seamen, and the air warriors. Our systems take off like a missile, and then they fly like a drone, and then attack like a missile. Basically, they are meant for time-sensitive targets where the point and the time of attack is as per the choosing of the operator. The systems can go up to as far as 200 kilometers, loiter over a period of 4 to 5 hours, and send back a live HD video feed to the operator's control unit, and the operator can pinpoint the exact time and space in the of the target, and the complete system then dives and hits the target as a top attack, almost at 90 degrees. So we need to master exact maneuvering in vertical flight. So that's where the advanced aerodynamics come in. So thank you for giving us the, thank you.
Thank you, Startup, for the quick presentation. The sheer range of technologies and applications goes to show the immense potential Indian startups possess. And the thing is, we're just getting started, right? So in India, we figured out that the way to do tech is to start with e-commerce and then to move into other forms of commerce and then finally land up in deep tech. But better late than never. But now it seems we've arrived, not just in the national scene, but in the global scene as well. We did have a few other important voices and views which we've kind of reordered, but I will fail in my duty if we don't take the opportunity to have those voice and views heard on this platform. So the next thought leader that we will feature today is Mr. Rajan Anand, Managing Director, Sequoia Capital and Surge India. You cannot find a greater champion of Indian startups than Rajan. And Rajan headed Google India and has been India's most prolific angel investor. We reached out to him to talk to us about his vision and perspectives on the topic Defense and Aerospace, Final Frontier for Indian Deep Tech Startups, and the vision and the opportunities around the space. So if we can have his message played now.
Hi everyone, welcome to Startup Manthan. I'm delighted to be here and honored to be here with all of you today. India, as all of you know, is the third largest ecosystem for startups in the world. We have over 41,000 startups, and at the end of 2020, we had 37 unicorns. And over the last decade, the Indian startup ecosystem has gone through a massive, massive transformation. If you go back just 10 years, at the end of 2010, India had only a few thousand startups, had no unicorns, so no billion-dollar private startups, and less than $1 billion of venture capital funding. So it's incredible to see the progress that we've made as a startup ecosystem over the next 10 years. But the reality is we are just getting started, and our ecosystem is going to grow from strength to strength. And what we're going to see is a much broader base of startup innovation over the next decade. And one of the sectors that I am most excited about, where we're going to see an incredible and extraordinary amount of innovation, is in the area of defense and aerospace. As all of you know, India today is the largest importer of arms equipment in the world. So that clearly spells opportunity right there, because if we can actually invent and create innovations that can substitute the products that we import today, it could create not just massive economic value, but from a defense standpoint, from a national security standpoint, it's actually a national imperative. And in that context, what the government is doing, what Startup Manthan is really focused on is really admirable. Today, India has close to 200 defense startups. I think the last published number is 194. And as all of you know, 2 years ago, India set out a mission to have 250 defense startups. And we are very much well on our way to get that. And I'm excited to see the caliber of very high quality startups we're beginning to see. Companies like IdeaForge with drone technologies, others that are actually focused on cybersecurity, others that are using sort of computer vision for advanced security applications, and a large number of subdomains in the defense area that we are beginning to see startups. It is a national imperative that we support our defense startups. And I'm delighted that all of the entrepreneurs who are here today at Startup Manthan are going to get an opportunity to talk about and share their innovations to the audience that's here both physically as well as virtually. I hope all of you have an absolutely terrific time at Startup Manthan, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next and first billion-dollar defense startup to come out of India very soon. Thank you.
So that was Rajan Anand, and in the conversations I had with him prior to the message, he sounded super excited about investing in defense startups. So I'm sure you guys need to touch base with him very soon. All the startups here in attending physically, as well as those who have joined us virtually, you should knock his doors pretty soon. Atal Innovation Mission has played a pivotal role in the setting up of IDEX. I should, at this stage, mention our dear colleague Mudit Narayan, who couldn't be here with us today, but has been, part and parcel of the founding of IDEX, and he was in Atal Innovation Mission when IDEX was seeded. Now, from its very inception, Mr. Ramanan Ramanathan, Additional Secretary Niti Aayog and Mission Director Atal Innovation Mission, has served on the board of DIO. I'm delighted to present to you the views of Mr. Ramanan on why the next decade in India will be the startup decade. Can we play the message of Mr. Ramanan?
India is making remarkable strides in the global arena in terms of startups and innovation. We are among the fastest growing startup nation of the world. Today we have more than 40,000 startups, out of which we have more than 40 unicorns that have come up over the last couple of years. 11 of them have been born during the COVID-19 period, which is a remarkable achievement for our country. We also have around 400 incubators which are supporting the growth of startups and ensuring that our startups succeed. After all, India is a country of 1.4 billion people, but more importantly, we have what is known as a demographic dividend, which is the advantage that many countries don't enjoy. We have over 65% of our people under 35 years old. We have more than 1.4 million schools in our country, more than 10,500 engineering and related institutions, and over 39,000 colleges. We are a very young country with a youthful energy that spreads across the length and breadth of our nation. It is very important to empower all of these young demographic dividend that we have and transform them into change makers for our country. And what better way than to encourage an ecosystem and establish an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship across the length and breadth of our country. And that is what the Startup Manthan is all about. And we are very proud that we have been partnering with various ministries, including the Ministry of Defense, in trying to promote an ecosystem of startups aligned to the needs of the ministry and aligned to the needs of our country. We have played a very strong role in enabling the DIO, the Defense Innovation Organization, and partnering with them across the country in establishing a series of defense-related incubators and innovation centers that would provide support, valuable support to the startups. A country can only be strong when its defense needs are met. And today we have emerging technologies like 3D printing, robotics, IoT, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality, and artificial intelligence, which have become affordable, accessible, available, and advanced. As a result of which we are able to deploy these new technologies for creating new solutions that not only our defense needs, but our country needs. And the needs of the defense are many, whether it is in the military, whether it is Navy, whether it is airspace, or whether it is the sea. We need to ensure that our defense have the latest of technologies being used in the systems and in the defense systems that are being deployed by our country. And therefore, there is a very important opportunity that all of you young budding innovators who have joined the Startup Manthan have in participating in the innovation initiatives of the Defense Innovation Organization, the various startups and the incubators that are already present in the space have an opportunity to grow and tap the needs not only of India, but in the global market. I do hope that this particular conference is going to trigger great interest, and we at Athal Innovation Mission are committed to the Ministry of Defense and to all of you young budding innovators to see that you succeed in your innovation journey. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts on this particular occasion.
So that was Mr. Ramanathan of Atal Innovation Mission. On the occasion of Startup Manthan, we're proud to bring to you messages from the leadership in India's defense forces, which is testament to the salience and significance IDEX is accorded within India's defense establishment. I'm delighted to bring messages from the Chief of Defense Staff, General Bipin Rawat, Chief of Army Staff, General Naravane, Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Karambir Singh, and Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal RKS Bhadauria. We will have these messages played in sequence one after the other. Thank you.
Aero India 2021 is the 13th edition of the biennial Air Show and Defence Exhibition organized by the Ministry of Defence. We welcome our distinguished guests from the industry, corporate sector, startups, and representatives from the civil and military sectors from all across the world to come together and congregate in Bengaluru for this event. Over the years, Aero India has become the largest air show in Asia and attracts a large number of exhibitors from the world's leading industries in the field of military and civil aviation, aerospace, airport infrastructure, and defense engineering. Defense sector innovation implies infusing technology in the existing systems to propagate revised processes to accrue operational benefits. Countries like India need to adopt the twin approach of imbibing incremental technologies and, in some measure, also incorporate the disruptive technology paradigm. Innovation and technology is the mainstay of an effervescent defense ecosystem of any country, and towards this, startups are the hubs which foster them. The advantages of engaging startups stem from identifying and filling in the technological gap with innovative, cost-effective ideas and the ability to absorb cutting-edge technology in product designing and manufacturing, coupled with the ability to adapt quickly to the changing needs of the customer. The IDEX initiative, launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in April 2018, aims to achieve self-reliance and foster innovation and technology development in defense and aerospace by engaging industries including MSMEs, startups, individual innovators, R&D institutes, and the academia. Therefore, the Startup Manthan is being conducted on the sidelines of Aero India 2021 and is being organized by the IDEX and Defense Innovation Organization under the aegis of the Department of Defense Production. The event is ideally suited to provide a unique opportunity for innovators associated with IDEX and Defense Innovative Organization to showcase their capabilities, products and services to target audiences of industry leaders and business decision makers. I wish to thank and compliment the organizers and all those involved in planning and preparation for this event, especially during these trying and difficult times due to the ongoing pandemic. I wish you all good luck, and I'm sanguine that Aero India 2021 will bring together the brightest of minds to ponder over the way ahead to achieve self-reliance in defense innovation. Jai Hind.
Distinguished dignitaries, delegates, and startups. I am privileged to be part of this Startup Manthan event and would like to commend members of the Defense Innovation Organization, the partner incubators, services, defense PSUs, and the startups who form this highly efficient ecosystem for supporting innovations and making Atmanirbhar Bharat a success story. In the past few years, initiatives under the Make in India and Atal Innovation Mission program have been great enablers in our quest for achieving self-sufficiency in defense equipment as part of the armed forces' commitment to nation building. These initiatives, along with recent Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, have been instrumental in fostering a culture of startups. The program, Innovation for Defense Excellence, or IDEX, was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in April 2018. Over the last 2 years, IDEX has gained substantial traction in the defense startup community. We are presently handholding 9 projects with 19 startups, MSMEs, which are at various stages of development. I am confident that the IDEX initiative would further strengthen our defense startup ecosystem. IDEX for 4G is another path-breaking initiative being launched along with Defense India Startup Challenge, or DISC. It will harness the first-hand experience of our service personnel for a great source of new and creative ideas. The concept has percolated to the field army, and a number of extremely encouraging responses have been received. I am sure that IDEX for 4G will provide a fillip to innovative practices for achieving self-reliance by the services. In a major push to support Atmanirbhar Bharat, we, through the Army Design Bureau, have reached out to 89 startups by way of startup search and provided a direct interface with users. 10 startups have been shortlisted and are being handheld for development of technology, hardware towards the realization of indigenized products. In the end, I would urge the young entrepreneurs, startups, and MSMEs to come forward and contribute to make this initiative a resounding success. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Delegates from the defense industry, entrepreneurs, innovators, and participants in the Aero India Startup Manthan. As you all know, Manthan in Hindi means churn. The Startup Manthan during Aero India is a true reflection of the churn that startups are bringing to India's innovation ecosystem. India today has nearly 80,000 startups, which account for the third highest venture capital activity globally. It is estimated that startups would help nearly triple India's GDP in the next few decades. For the defense services, innovation is an essential element of warfighting. History has shown that the side with better technology has an edge in conflict. This is especially relevant to navies, which are inherently more technology intensive. For the Navy, therefore, interacting and integrating with startups is an important element of our innovation initiatives. Towards harnessing the innovative potential of the startup ecosystem, we have fielded 9 problem statements on the IDEX website. 6 of these are already being progressed through 14 startups. The Navy has also recently established the Naval Innovation and Indigenization Organization, or the NIIO, which aims to increase our engagement and outreach to the defense industry. Our aim is that this interaction should not be episodic, but a partnership that is continuous and ever evolving. I would urge innovators and entrepreneurs to
to engage with this organization. The email ID of NIIO is shown on the screen. Let me also commend Team Aero India for putting together the Startup Manthan initiative, which I'm sure would serve as a gateway to opportunities. It is also befitting that users and innovators are engaging in the dynamic city of Bengaluru, which is among the world's top 20 startup hubs. I have no doubt that the creative acumen and problem-solving approach of our entrepreneurs, innovators and thinkers can. As the saying goes, one machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, but no machine can do the work of extraordinary men. I wish all participants of Aero India Startup Manthan the very best and look forward to interacting with the innovators in person. Jai Hind.
Distinguished members of the Indian defense industry and young leaders of India's startup revolution, it gives me great pleasure to be part of Startup Manthan 2021. I think as a nation, we have got everything that we need for establishing a resurgent defense production base. We have the best scientists, highly talented IT professionals, a large pool of blue-collar force, and relatively cheaper manufacturing costs. These core strengths need to be harnessed to bolster indigenous defense R&D and manufacturing base. Towards this, host of policy decisions, including the revised Defense Production Policy of 2018 and Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020 are major steps. IF has always been in the driving seat to determine the cutting-edge technologies required to achieve the desired capabilities for the threat scenario. Based on this, our procurement roadmap is always up to date, which is communicated to the industry through multiple forums like Idec's Open Challenge, Idec's DISC, TDF, and Mayor Baba Swarm Drone competition. In the DIC format, the services reach out to the startup community through their problem statements. The Open Challenge format provides a way for startups to reach out to the services through their proposals. This is akin to the suo motu format of the MAKE procedure. In the just concluded first round of Open Challenge, we are happy that major proposals like extended endurance loitering munitions and high technology products such as high altitude persistent surveillance systems are now being progressed. We are fully committed towards inducting homegrown technologies, equipment and weapon systems in our inventory. The recent order of 83 LCA is a defining movement towards Atmanirbharta in defense production. I am very happy to be part of the gathering, which is going to create a robust and resurgent military manufacturing ecosystem for the nation. My best wishes to you, and may you have a very fruitful and interactive session towards the larger aim of nation building. Jai Hind.
So that brings us to the close of Startup Manthan. Many congratulations to all the winners. And once again, thank you to all those speakers who joined us in person, who joined us live virtually, as well as those that sent recorded messages. But before we formally close, I would be failing in my duties if I did not recognize the names of the people, the team that worked very hard to put this together. And I'd like to start with our Vice Captain, Shri Anurag Bajpai, who is additional CEO of DIO, IDEX, and the Joint Secretary, Planning and Coordination, Department of Defense Production. Sir, can I have you on stage here? And I'd also like to invite one by one the members of DIO. DIO is a reasonably large team. At least I'd like to think of it as a company, and it's about close to 10 people or so. And maybe if we can have the members of DIO, the program directors and the program executives, starting with Colonel Arvind, Commander Suchin Jain, is he here? I'm sure people are busy with organizing other events to follow up, but whoever is here, if they can come on stage, it'll be good to have them recognized. Vivek Virmani, our Chief Operating Officer, is he around? I can see Sakib there. Sakib, you want to come in? Yeah, I see Vivek Virmani running in. Vivek, please. Commander Suchin Jain, please join us on stage. And also my colleagues, Vignesh and Pradeep, please come on stage. Abhishek, please join us on stage. Saurabh, where are you? We're not able to find Saurabh, but... And also the others who are not here today at the Startup Manthan, at the Aero India, but we have a few others who are part of the DIO team and are based in Delhi. It's a combined team effort. And, I'm very proud to have been associated in putting together this Startup Manthan event. A round of applause for this amazing team. Particularly, thank you, Mr. Bajpai, for your constant guidance and support. I'm very much here. I'm still doing my job. Otherwise, you know what Mr. Jaju will tell me, so I'll continue to finish this. But yes, it's a combined team effort. I thank all the audience who've joined us here, as well as those that attended the session online. It was fun putting this together. Hope you enjoyed. And we really look forward to Startup Manthan 2023 at Aero India 2023. Until then, goodbye from all of us. Thank you.